Here.
Senator Hicks,
Here.
Senator Ide,
Here.
Senator Kolb,
Present.
Chairman Steinmetz.
Here. All right, thank you. Well, as you know, we held House Bill 22 over. Public comment was closed and we were working the bill. Senator Hicks took that over, and so we'll defer to him to give us an explanation of what he did. If anyone from the public needs a copy of the bill, we have extra copies, our secretary does. Many of you I've conversed with via email already, and so we've received your comments back. And so we'll let Senator Hicks proceed with the bill.
So, Madam Chairman, the only thing that we did with this bill was we didn't change anything in the bill other than clean up to make conforming language formatted in a format consistent with our normal drafting characteristics for laws of the state of Wyoming, Madam Chairman. But with that, we took testimony on the bill. We walked through it before. I think the committee and the audience knows what the bill does. So, Madam Chairman, I would stand for if there are any questions on the bill in the current format.
Okay, committee, any questions on the current format of the bill? I know you haven't had a lot of time to review it, but there are no substantial policy changes whatsoever. It's just a reordering of how the bill was written. Everything that you saw on the chart given to us by the State Lands and Investment Office is exactly the same, the notification times and the process that was set out. Does anyone have any questions for Senator Hicks? Seeing none.
Move the bill, Madam Chairman.
All right, let's stop for just a minute, because the way I understand it, this bill is an amendment, right? So we'll move the bill and then we'll move the amendment and then we'll amend the amendment. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Okay, all right, so the bill has been moved by Senator Hicks, seconded by, who was it? Senator Ide. So the bill has been moved and seconded. Are there any amendments?
Madam Chairman,
Turn on your microphone.
I would move substitute to House Bill 22.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved by Hicks, seconded by Ide. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Discussion on the amendment, Senator Kolb.
I have a hard time understanding this, Madam Chair. It makes far too much sense to me compared to the first one. That's my only comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Kolb. I think that's a compliment, Senator Hicks.
Madam Chairman, it should be a compliment to our LSO staff who went back and redrafted this in our normal format, so.
All right, thank you, LSO staff, if you're listening. All right, seeing no more discussion on the amendment, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The amendment to substitute House Bill 22, substitute to House Bill 22 has been adopted. Now we are on the amendment. The amendment is the bill. Are there any amendments on the substitute bill?
Madam Chairman,
Senator Hicks.
page 2, line 15, where it says lease via certified mail. I think we discussed at the last committee meeting that we don't need certified mail for the 120-day notification, so I would strike the word certified.
Okay. Do I hear a second? Moved by Hicks, seconded by Kolb, to strike the word certified on line 15. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That amendment has been adopted. Linda, did you get that? Yes, ma'am. All right. Are there any further amendments?
Madam Chairman,
Senator Hicks.
page 6, line 7.
Okay,
Madam Chairman, I listened to the testimony on this bill, and I also listened to the department, and I know there's a number of bills that we passed out that they're going to be pretty busy within the Office of State Lands and Investment. I want to make sure that we've got adequate time that they can get this out through their rulemaking and get this vetted. I would like to move that we change the effective date to December 31st to 2024, Madam Chairman, and members of the committee. I fully expect that the department is going to work within the spirit of the bill and understand the importance of getting these lease permits turned around when they come in and notifications. I just want to make sure that there's plenty of adequate time that we get it done and get it done right. So, Madam Chairman, that would be my suggested amendment.
Is there a second on the amendment?
Second.
Did you say December 31st, 2023 or 2020?
2023, I apologize.
Okay, all right. So is that okay with the second?
Yes.
2023? All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That amendment has been adopted. Linda, did you get that one?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. All right. Seeing no further amendments and seeing that we've already discussed this bill, any further discussion on the bill from the committee?
Call the question, Madam Chairman.
All right, Linda, would you please call the roll?
Senator French.
Aye.
Senator Hicks.
Aye.
Senator Ide.
Aye.
Senator Kolb.
Aye.
Chairman Steinmetz.
Aye.
Madam
All
Chairman,
right.
there are 5 ayes.
All right. And thank you, Senator Hicks, for volunteering to present this on the floor.
You're welcome, Madam Chairman.
All right, the next bill for our consideration was House Bill 17. We will be holding that bill back. We have an amendment on that bill, just kind of a drafting amendment, same as this one, that we just considered, not a substitute bill, but just a drafting amendment to make it easier to understand. So we'll be hearing that at our next meeting. So the next bill for our consideration is House Bill 180, brucellosis testing notification requirements. And I'm wondering if our good presenter is here. They might still be in session. That would be Representative Davis. And it looks like Senator Hicks and I are also on this bill. Would you like to present this bill, Senator Hicks?
Madam Chairman, I would defer to you on this bill. But I got your back.
All right, so I will let Senator Kolb take over running the meeting and I'll go present the bill. Would you mind doing that, Senator Kolb?
I will do my best.
All right. We like to give everyone equal opportunity here.
It's all about.
We'll take a brief pause for technical difficulties. All right, we'll go ahead and proceed. Senator Kolb, you're in charge, and I'll go ahead and present the bill. And everyone will have to bear with us as we deal with the buzzing sound we're hearing. So, fellow senators, this is basically a bill for the Livestock Board to establish a communication protocol and provide information related to brucellosis testing. You'll see some additional language on page 2 where they're establishing a standard communication protocol to inform livestock producers, veterinarians, and brand inspectors in the designated surveillance area within the county where a non-negative brucellosis test has been confirmed for any animal. That's pretty much the substance of the bill. I know the agency is also here. I see our good state veterinarian and our livestock board director. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, or Senator Kolb, we still have a quorum. Two people have exited the meeting.
I did.
And so I'd stand for any questions. Any questions?
Any questions from the committee? Anyone wish to comment about this bill? Any agency comments?
Madam Chairman, Senator Kolb, committee, I think as agency, we would be more than happy to answer any questions you might have about these protocols and the way this works. I don't think we have a comment, but we'd certainly answer any questions the committee might have.
Madam Chair. or Mr. Chairman,
Yeah. Yes, Senator Hicks. Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, Steve, could you just walk us through and just don't read it, just tell us what we're doing here with the changes with the brucellosis notification requirements? I know Senator Steinmetz did that, but you're the guy that's got to implement most of this stuff, so I want to hear, when it talks about communication protocols, what do you anticipate that's going to be, and just from your office standpoint?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Hicks, and I apologize, Steve True, Director of the Wyoming Livestock Board. I forgot to identify myself. I was a little worried about the slow-moving equipment that might be coming in the back door on us here.
This SMB sign.
I heard they killed that.
So, Mr. Chairman, and a lot of the process I will defer to Dr. Hazel, but basically, this bill asks us to establish a standard communication protocol. We basically work within the protocols offered by the USDA, our rules and statute now in the way we inform folks that have the disadvantage of having had a suspect animal, brucellosis animal. And the bill also refers to some information we may be released or that we may release based on that. That also is contained within our reportable disease statutes and our confidentiality statutes, the process we currently use for that. So I think what the intention has been, or what we has had offered to us from some of your fellow sponsors, is a definitive effort by my board to sit down with those folks in that DSA area, understand what their concerns are with the protocols that we use now and the way communication works, and yet make sure that we still don't exceed any confidentiality requirements or any rules that pertain to us on the backside from either the USDA or our rules. One of the things that I mentioned on the House side when we visited about this is it's important to know that DSA is a USDA designation. The brucellosis area of concern is a USDA-based designation. Dr. Hazel enters into an MOU, and then we built a Wyoming process to work through the brucellosis issues within the state. The same goes for Idaho and Montana, the other GYA states, they do the same. So within this, we think there is plenty of room for us to implement what's in the bill, but yet we still have to be careful when we talk to those producers that we don't do something that, for lack of a more professional term, would tip over the apple cart with USDA or other regulating agencies that could inhibit producers' ability to market. So, but we think we can do what's in here. There was some language, and Dr. Hazel can talk can he explain to you the science where we talked about the difference between a non-negative, a confirmation, and a preliminary? And so with your permission, Madam Chair, Senator Kolb, I'll defer to Dr. Hazel for
Yeah,
that
Madam Chair,
explanation.
before we move on, Director True, if I may. Mr. Chairman.
Thank
If I
you,
may.
Senator Hicks. Continue.
So, Steve, on when we get to 11-18-103, this is powers of the board. So when it says establish a standard communication protocol, what do you anticipate that is? And what is a standard communication protocol?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Hicks, that is yet to be determined. Probably pretty much the same protocol we follow now in the timing of when certain types of results are received, who Dr. Hazel notifies at that time. Just quickly, some of the amendments in there were put in to keep from making that notification a wide-ranging, potentially a press release of an early preliminary result on a suspect. And all that accomplishes is alert other regulatory agencies that there's a potential of a problem that they don't need to know about yet until we've gone through a further testing status. So I think what we'll do is find out what the folks in the DSA, what their pertinent issues, if they can point to a couple of steps that they think that's not working for them, then we can work backwards from that within the framework of the other sets of rules we have to abide by to give them the notification that helps them, yet maintains the confidentiality of a producer that requests so.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
got it right.
Senator Hicks. Thank you, Senator Hicks.
Mr. Chairman. So Director True, so I'm assuming when it says standard communication protocol, that's either going to be certified mail, registered mail, email, phone. Is that what we're talking about? So I understand it will be in a BSA area and for the designated, for within those areas that they have a non-negative test, but within that range of all those different communication standards, is same thing that we've just worked with the Office of State Land. So establish a standard communication protocol. Is that going to be within 10 days of negative test? And I think it comes in later that you will notify them via email, phone, certified mail, registered mail. What process do you intend or do you anticipate adopting to establish a standard communication protocol?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Hicks, I may defer that one to Dr. Hazel because that can depend on the situation a little bit. Typically, the notification is a phone call or a personal visit to the first case. But I would, if I may, I would defer Dr. Hazel, who does that notification, to answer that.
Thank you, Doctor.
I've lost who is chairman, sorry.
He is.
Chairman Cole,
He's the big kahuna.
Senator Hicks, Dr. Hallie Hazel. Referring to a standard communication protocol is basically similar to what we're doing right now. Depending upon the producer's knowledge of internet or producer's experience with internet communication versus telephone versus written preference, we usually know the producers. There's a limited number of producers in the DSA, and we're fairly familiar with a big chunk of them, or their veterinarians are familiar with their preferred method of communication. So we have a range that we will put into the standard communication protocol. We'll include a range of notification. It will be within 3 days, but it could be by email, telephone, written certified mail, any of those things, depending upon the owner's preferred method of communication, which is often available from their veterinarian within a 3-day time period.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions for the department? Oh, Senator Ide?
Thank you, Chairman Kolb. Just a quick question on page 3, line 2. You mentioned the information released may be a public release or may be limited to specific individuals. Could you explain what a public release, how you would define that? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Ide, that is some standards. That is the previous statute. These are in the reportable disease statutes. That may be an entirely different disease than this brucellosis that has been enacted in this bill. So sometimes there is a press release or a joint press release with public health if there's a rabies, something like that. It's a different than a quarantinable event, which is being referred to here in the brucellosis on a suspect or a non-negative test. But that's existing statute. That's nothing new. That's the way that's always been in the way that the state veterinarian responds. And then there is in that statute then a kind of a list of people that she may notify, stair-stepping down to the public at large in events of different reportable disease events.
Thank you.
Senator French.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To either one of you, I guess, how a brucellosis designation is not a good thing if you're a producer. It may be because some elk trotted through or whatever, or had their calves. How tight-lipped are you? I mean, I know you have to abide by certain regs, but you know, this could be really detrimental to a producer. So this kind of enlightened me a little on that end of things. Somebody's got a positive test out there, and you know, maybe somebody's looking at buying a part of their herd, and that's, oh, tell the whole world, you know what I'm saying? Thank you.
Chairman Kolb, Senator French. If I may back up just a little bit, prior to this language, we notified whenever there was a confirmed laboratory, whenever there's a laboratory confirmation of brucellosis is when we would notify others besides the owners. With this bill, that changes to a non-negative standing from the laboratory, from the preliminary results. That means when we have something from our state lab, that means that the sample is non-negative, not necessarily brucellosis, that we are required to notify the producer and others as listed in one of the previous paragraphs. Previously, it was we notify them when there is a confirmed negative as a rule. With this change, we will notify the producer and others according to our communication protocol that we establish of any non-negative from our state lab. That doesn't mean it's a confirmed brucellosis. That means it's a non-negative sample. And in our communication protocol, we will establish who receives those results and when, depending on whether it's a non-negative brucellosis versus the actual confirmed test, to help protect the identity of that producer. Because as you stated, it is extremely important that that not be released to those to affect that producer's ability to market their cattle and possibly their neighbor's cattle as well. Confidentiality is extremely important in this case, which is why allowing us to establish that standard communication protocol is so vitally important to this bill, that we be able to establish that protocol, which says who we will notify and when non-negative results are received to make sure that confidentiality is maintained. It may have been more confusing than it was clarifying, but
Mr. Chairman, if I might add one thing to that, on page 2, the language in section B there, I guess I should make sure I'm looking at the right part. That where it says on the livestock board may release information, still according to our conversations with the original sponsor, allows the board and Dr. Hazel some discretion on that notification. It doesn't require, as the official draft, the first draft of the bill required us to notify all people, which was amended out, thankfully. And this part still allows us some discretion due to our confidentiality statutes to not carry that news any farther than it needs to until the disease confirmation, testing to confirmation continues.
Any further agency questions? Thank you for testifying, agency. Please stand by. We might bring you back up if we need clarification. Thank you. Representative Davis, would you please come up?
Mr. Chairman and committee, seems you're a little earlier than what I had anticipated. And it sounds like you've worked the bill fairly well so far, but this is a good bill, and the intent of this bill was to give that latitude to the state vet and to be able to not, the sky is falling syndrome. So that this gives us the trigger points there with the testing along in order to put out the information correctly to the producers and the surrounding landowners and veterinarians and everybody that's involved in that. And that was the intent of the bill.
Thank you, Representative Davis. I guess please stand by and we'll maybe need some further testimony.
And once again, I apologize. Thank you.
No issue. Any other concern, any other agency comments? Mr. Magagna, please come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jim McGagnon, Wyoming Stockbroker Association. We would support this bill. And the comment I would offer is that I think that the process that the Wyoming Livestock Board, State Veterinarian have been used has been a good process. From the feedback I've had, part of the problem is that a livestock owner doesn't know that process until they have a animal that is potentially positive, and then they don't know what to expect. So one of the things I would hope following passage of this bill, and we would look forward to working with the Livestock Board and the State Veterinarian, is that we could outline that protocol and realizing it's got to have some flexibility to it, but in a manner that cattle producers within the designated surveillance area can all have that in advance. So if they happen to become one of those people, they know what they can anticipate. They know when they can expect to receive phone calls, et cetera, as opposed to, gee, now I have a non-negative animal, what's next? And that's kind of what we've sensed, that it's not that the protocol hasn't been good, but that it isn't understood in advance. So with that, would again encourage your support for the bill, because I think it will help to enhance that opportunity. Be happy to take any questions.
Any questions for the stock growers? Thank you
Mr.
for your
Chairman.
comments. Mr. Modine, you didn't know comments? All right, any other comments in the room? Seeing none. Anybody online? Going once, going twice? We're closing public comment. Committee, what is your pleasure?
I'll move the bill.
Moved by Steinmetz, seconded by French. Any amendments on the bill?
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Hicks.
Mr. Chairman, page 3, lines 1, starting with the information released may be. So it starts with the information. Mr. Chairman, with the addition of the new language on page 2 that says the Livestock Board may release any information, it's just redundant language, and I know it's existing statutory framework. With the addition of the new language, we've already said under new subsection B that the Livestock Board may release any information related to a confirmed non-negative brucellosis, et cetera, et cetera. Then we come in over there on the old language to say the information may be public released or may be limited to a specific individual as the Livestock Board deems the circumstances require. I believe with the new language in subsection B, it gives the Livestock Board complete discretion as to who gets the information, how much information they release. So with the new language, I think the old language there in the last sentence is just redundant. It just cleans up the statute and can still leaves that complete discretion with the Livestock Board.
Thank you, Senator Hicks. Judy, are you clear on that?
So let me run through it.
Oh,
So page 3, line 1, starting with strike the balance of that line, all of line 2, all of line 3, and all of line 4. And Mr. Chairman, if we may, I would like to get the director back up here just to make sure he knows what we're doing and get his input to make sure that.
Agent, do you,
With the new language, Mr. Chairman, I think that last sentence is just redundant.
okay. Agency comments, what do you think about that amendment?
Good, I can read that. Thank you. Thank you. I was aging myself looking at my phone. Mr. Chairman, I don't think that will cause any issues. I would just make the point that confidentiality statute also refers to premise ID on an ID, national ID premises program. So that I would defer to the committee if they wanted to leave that alone or not. As far as this bill goes, and for this process, I think the language is redundant, but that was inserted into a statute that was built for the NACE program in 2013.
Thank you for your comments. Senator Hicks?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, it's 11-18-117, and it's just a run-on of subsection B.
Yeah.
So I don't think it in any way jeopardizes
No,
anything else already in statutes and other sections.
I agree, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to make sure that you saw the whole context and we're pleased with that. Other than that, the amendment works for us.
All right, thank you for the comments. Committee, any other amendments? Oh, we're gonna do it. Okay, let's vote on the proposed amendment. Those in favor?
You need a second on that, or do you not?
Yeah.
Oh, who's
I'll
second?
second.
Seconded by Ide, motion by Hicks. All in favor of the proposed amendment, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Any other amendments proposed? All right. Let's vote on the bill. Any comments on the bill? No discussion? Roll call vote. Linda?
Senator French.
Aye.
Senator Hicks.
Aye.
Senator Ide.
Aye.
Senator Kolb.
Aye.
Chairman Steinmetz.
Aye.
It's 5 ayes.
I have to go to appropriations meeting. Thank you. I turn this meeting back over to Chairman Steinmetz.
Thank you, Senator Kolb. You did a great job. All right. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 188, Wolf Depredation Compensation. Welcome to the Ag Committee, Representative Will Winter.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I want to also thank you for letting me know that you're in session here. Right. I'm Representative John Winter from House District 28, and I bring to you the House Bill number 188, Wolf Depredation Compensation. And this bill will enlist the aid of the Wyoming's Department of Agriculture to provide compensation for any livestock loss to our operators in the predator zone. And also the Department of Agriculture, in order to provide verification of these death loss, they will should enlist the aid of APHIS and Wyoming Game and Fish Department, or whoever else, or whatever other agency might be needed to do the verification on this damage. And we did acquire a $300,000 appropriation from the Appropriations Committee for this bill. So that's pretty much all I have. I sure take questions.
All right, committee, any questions for the sponsor of this bill? Any
Madam Chairman.
questions? Senator French beat you. Senator French.
Need to be quicker, Mr. Hicks. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Representative, what are the compensation rates for if a wolf takes down a calf or a cow or a bull or a horse or a whatever, goat? Is there a set rate for these things, or does it vary?
Senator French, I don't know as I can really give you an answer to that. There are certain requirements for these losses. We're already going through an effort to obtain compensation for yearling cattle for their loss, but I can't tell you, I guess, right now what that is.
Follow up?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. I know this has to be, my son-in-law runs a big ranch, and we were riding around that ranch last year and come across a couple big calves that had been brought down by grizzly bears. And boy, it didn't take no time for the evidence to be gone, within days, because you have eagles and ravens and coyotes, wolves, everything you can think of it hitting that animal. So speed is of the essence if you lose an animal. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, that's very true, and speed is a really a consideration on this, and that's why we've asked that's why the bill indicates that we need to involve APHIS or the Game and Fish Department in any way possible to make sure that we get this taken care of right away. There has been some discussion about allowing photographs by the rancher to be used as well, but that doesn't appear in this particular bill at this time.
Madam Chairman,
Senator Hicks.
a couple questions. Representative Winters, are these payments for wolf predation, are they eligible within both the trophy management areas and the statewide the statewide predator areas for wolves? Where would these payments be eligible for?
Madam Chairman, Senator Hicks, it's my understanding that it will be for the whole state where the predator zone occurs.
And then, Madam Chairman, a follow-up. Do you remember when we had this program stood up? This was a statewide program before wolves were delisted. And do you remember what kind of annual payments or average payments that we were paying out at that time? Any idea what those payments were? How much money were we going? I'm just trying to figure out how long the $300,000 appropriation may or may not last based on historical experience.
Yes, thank you.
Go ahead.
Madam Chairman. Senator Hicks, this has been, let's see, what was I going to tell you? The efforts here are such that I've lost my memory. I'm sorry.
Representative Winters, would you like to phone a friend? I see someone from the Department of Ag in the back that might be able to answer some of these questions.
Yes, thank
She's a
you.
numbers girl, and I recognize her back there, so come on down. State your name and who you're with. Welcome to the Ag Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Julie Cook, Wyoming Department of Agriculture. I'm the Administrative Manager. First of all, I'd like to tell you the Director sends his regrets for not being able to be here today, but he asked me to be here to answer questions.
Good, thank you.
I can answer the question on the number of payments that we've had in the past. I believe that's the question we were looking at. So when this program was set up in BFY 17, we had 13 payees for a total of $22,465. We also had this program that just finished for 2022, and we had 5 payees in the amount of $22,270. And I said 5 payees.
Madam Chairman, but I
Senator
believe
Hicks.
now the payees are only eligible if they're in the trophy management zones. If they're in the statewide predator zone, the way we designate wolves, those folks are not eligible for compensation. Is that correct or not? I'm trying to recall. My recollection is it's only those in the trophy management area.
Go ahead.
Madam Chairman, so there are 2 programs in the state. Wyoming Game and Fish does the trophy zone, if there's something there. And the money that has been allocated to the Wyoming Department of Agriculture has been in the predator zone only.
Okay, and so, Madam Chairman, in the way the bill's structured, this would be eligible for both zones or not, as you understand it, Mr. Cook?
Madam Chairman, my understanding is this is only for the predator zone.
Okay. And I haven't gone all the way back through it, but where is that at in the bill?
Madam Chairman, I believe that would be on page 2, lines 1, 2, and 3, where it said where gray wolves are classified as predatory animals.
Yep, that's it, thank you, that's what I was looking for.
Thank you. All
Madam
right.
Chair.
Any further questions for the agency? Since she's up here. Go ahead, Senator Ide.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This could be for either one of you, I guess, while you're both up there. Senator Hicks kind of hit on my question as well, on, what the dollar amount was that we've given over time. You kind of started with 2013 and then went to 2020. Has it been sort of an average, sort of in that range, and has it gotten worse or better over that period of time? Just to get a little data on the extent of the trouble going on with the wolves. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Either one of you, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam
Representative
Chairman.
Winter.
Senator, my memory returned it for a second. Previous to this year, it's my understanding that we had about $45,000 appropriated for this program. And this last year, the Department of Agriculture returned, I think it was $16,000 back to it, to the general fund, if you will. And so we originally were thinking that 135,000 would probably take care of it. Now that it's statewide now for all predator zones, and in so doing, we thought that we had enough money for it for the future. However, during our committee meeting, the House committee meeting, it was determined that they didn't think that was near enough, and since it's a statewide deal, that we ought to go to a $300,000 level, and we did approach the Appropriations Committee to come up with that figure, and they approved it. So.
All right, any further questions? Julie, did you have anything else to tell us that we might need to know?
Madam Chairman, I may just add on to that. This program has only been ran 2 different times. So it was originally put in session law in the 2016 session, Enrolled Act number 52. And that was when we ran the first program. It was not funded again after that until until last year, where we were given a budget fiscal note on the budget that allowed for the program to run again. So it's only ran for those 2 time periods that I discussed. And so this would be the 3rd time we would have run this program. And then, Madam Chairman, one other question I might be able to help with Senator French on, and he had asked about the cost per livestock and how that's determined. That is determined via rule that we write, and generally that is the fall livestock market sale, average sale for that type of animal that is sold. And that's generally how that is written in our rules that we're required to write for this program and would be required to do again based on this proposed legislation.
All right, thank you. Senator French?
Yeah, excuse me. Thank you, Madam Chairman. To Representative Winter, just a general comment. When this program was first started, I don't believe the wolves had, in the predatory zone, had migrated to the southern part of the state. And now, got wolves all across the southern part of the state, so the demand or the quote losses from depredation could be higher. Because we've got, I think, a couple packs that are on the southern part of the state that are wandering in and out of Colorado. And so if they're there, they're clear across up to the northwest corner of the state where I'm at. So just a comment.
All right. Any further questions, committee? Further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. We'll just open up to public comment now. Come on down, whoever makes it first. Well, if you go 45. All right, we'll hear from the Farm Bureau first. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Brett Moline, Wyoming Farm Bureau Federation, sitting in strong support of this bill. Some of the comments that have already been made have kind of nailed what the problem is. The wolves have expanded. They're down in Colorado. They'll move north. We'll have more problems with their wolves in Wyoming. That was one of the reasons the amount was raised from where it originally was in the House up to the $300,000. There was discussion over on the other side that perhaps a lot of producers didn't know that this compensation was available in the predator zone. We're not touching the trophy game area. We'll still have that same compensation program there, but I will commit that should this bill come into effect, that we will make sure at least our members know about it through our correspondence with them. With that, Madam Chairman, I would sit for any questions you may have for me.
All right, we've got one from Senator French.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. Do you know, since Colorado, the state south of us, a little ways, voted to reintroduce the wolves? I don't know if they've started yet, but they voted to do that. And so once they start doing that, and I'd be guaranteed that each one of them is going to have 15 collars on them to monitor where they're at, So if they come across the line into Wyoming and kill a couple calves or whatever, who can that producer send a bill to the state to the south of us? Or how's that going to work? Or where they've come into a predator zone in this state and killed some animals, some livestock. How's that? Do you have any idea how that's going to work?
Mr. Moline.
Chairman Steinmetz, Senator French, the way I would envision that work is where was the animals killed at? If they were killed in Wyoming, we will have to bear the brunt of the cost of those predations. I would hazard a pretty good guess that the state to the south of us will not give Wyoming producers a penny. It'll be up to us to reimburse the producers for their loss.
Mr. Moline, would you advocate for building a border wall? All right. We get this way in the middle of session, so for those watching online.
Madam Chairman, so long as we can do transport for those wolves that come into Wyoming back to Colorado.
But
All right.
Which does bring up, I mean, if they're gonna be imported in here, do we, we should probably make them have their state veterinarian do the health test on them to make sure they're healthy before those wolves do come to Wyoming.
Thank you, Mr. Moline. All right, any questions for Mr. Moline? Seeing none, thank you. Mr. McGagna, you're up next.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Jim McGagna, Wyoming Stockgrowers Association, and also representing Wyoming Wool Board. Just a quick bit of history. When wolves were first introduced into Yellowstone Park, and Wyoming was tasked with developing a wolf management plan for the state. And we were very involved in that with the governor's office, with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And as an industry, after a lot of broad discussion, as the ranching industry, we made the decision that we would forego payment for damages in the trophy area in return for the ability to kill a wolf on site. So that was the plan. We'd rather be able to kill them than we would get paid for the losses. That's the way once they were delisted. And that's the way we operated until they were relisted. So the first time that the legislature appropriated money for the wolf compensation in the predator area, it specified it was only while the wolves were listed as a predator. So at the end of that, when they were delisted the second time, that money stopped coming, payments stopped. Then they were listed again, as this goes back and forth forever. And when they were listed again, the legislature again appropriated money to be compensated for in the predator area, so long as the wolf was listed as a endangered species or threatened species. So the legislation you have in front of you today, which we certainly support, but it would go a step beyond anything we had in the past, because it would make those payments, even though the wolf remains delisted and remains classified as a predator in the state. And while I would go back to that time some 20 years ago when we said we didn't want compensation, I think things have changed today. Wolves are more widespread because of the fact that they were relisted twice. The population was allowed to grow more than it would have if we had had the predator status without any interruption through these 20-some years. And so I think that's why that something like this makes some sense today to provide this compensation. I noticed that this is for the period through 2026. I'm not sure what's going to change then that necessarily we can draw a line and say that's going to be adequate, but it's a step in the right direction. As far as the compensation, in the trophy game area, northwestern Wyoming, the Game and Fish compensates on a formula. So a cow is 1 for 1. One cow is killed or injured, you get paid for one. Calves are 7 to 1. If one calf is injured or killed, you get paid for 7 calves. And that's based on some pretty significant research that was done primarily in Montana that determined that, especially in forested areas and that where most of the problems occur, that you likely only find about 1 out of every 7 that have been killed. For sheep, it's the same. It's the 7 to 1 reimbursement ratio. As this here bill spreads it across in the predator area, well, we'll still have the ability to control wolves. I think it makes sense in this area to go just the 1 for 1, which is what, as I understand, that's what this bill would do. And I think that difference is justifiable because the most severe damage is still going to be occurring in the trophy game area in northwestern Wyoming. So I think that would be acceptable to us to do it this way. I do think that, and I'm pleased to see in here the reference to working with the Game and Fish and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, APHIS, because they're the people who are out on the ground identifying these losses. And in the trophy area, if you want to receive reimbursement, you have to call upon either Game and Fish or Wildlife Services, USDA Wildlife Services, to come in and confirm the loss on the ground. And certainly that's a duty here that I can't see us imposing on the Wyoming Department of Agriculture because they don't have field staff to do that. So I think it would make sense that we would turn to particularly to Game and Fish as because of the wardens and biologists and people being out there to provide a tool for confirming these losses. With that, Madam Chairman, I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
All right, questions for stock growers? Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Madam Chairman? I have
Senator
a
Hicks.
question for
Oh.
Julie, if she could come back.
All right, Julie, come on back. And let's check in with Pierre. Do we have anyone online to testify on this bill? We do not. All right.
Julie, when you go to page 2 and then line 10, and this subsection B, this is where the Department of Agriculture shall enter into. Is the right wording there contracts or is it agreements? Seems to me like you would enter into an agreement with the department, not necessarily a contractual obligation, usually infers some kind of financial transaction. Would agreements be more acceptable for the department there?
Yes,
ahead.
Madam Chairman, they would be agreements since they're between state agencies or federal agencies.
All right. That's all I needed to know, Madam Chairman.
All right, thank you, Julie. All right, any further public comment? Further public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Committee, what's your pleasure?
I've moved the bill.
Senator French moves the bill.
Second.
Senator Ide seconds. All right, amendments on the bill.
Madam Chairman,
Go ahead, Senator Hicks.
page 1, line 14.
Okay,
Madam Chairman, as a previous appropriator and you understand that based on the utilization of this program, there's likely to could be a substantial amount of money left. This only covers 1.5 bienniums, so I would change that from 2026 to 2028. And then that, Madam Chairman, if you go over it, it would be a conforming amendment on page 3, line 13. Where it says 2026, we would insert 2028. Conforming amendment on page 3, line 17. That would be 20, instead of 2026, we would have 2028. Madam Chairman, that allows this program to be fully funded for 1 more year and 2 bienniums before it would, and at any time, if the account was depleted, the Department of Ag could come back. The way it's currently worded, in 3 years, if there's any money, it reverts back into the general fund, and the department would have to come back and ask for a reappropriation of any funds. So I think it just makes sense to make sure that any money in the program stays in there for at least 2 bienniums.
all right, is there a second on the amendment?
Second.
Okay, moved by Hicks, seconded by French. Any discussion? Discussion seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The motion has been adopted.
Then, Madam Chairman, page 2, line 10, strike the words contracts and enter agreements.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Hicks, seconded by Ide. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Try that again. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The amendment has been adopted. Linda, did you get all of that? All right, thank you. Any further discussion on the bill? Discussion on the bill? Seeing none, would you call the roll and we'll hold the vote open for Senator Kolb?
Senator French. Senator Hicks.
Aye.
Senator Ide.
Aye.
Chairman Steinmetz.
Aye. And I would ask the good sponsors of the bills to stick around and we'll figure out who's going to carry these on the floor and if we have any talking points. Before we close today, interim requests for interim committees are due by the 24th of February. So if you have some, please get them to us. We'll be scheduling a meeting to talk about interim topics once we get through all of our bills. For committee members, please get me your calendars of dates that are available for our interim meetings. We'll be getting together and figuring those out as well. With that, I don't see anything else to come before the committee, so we'll stand adjourned.